Welcome to Study Basics, day 5 of 5. So before we move on here, I want to talk about test anxiety for a little bit here. So for those who have test anxiety, so that test is coming up and you feel anxious, you feel fearful that you might not do as well a job as you think you can on the test. Well, there's a way to combat test anxiety. The direct way to do that is being well prepared. So these past few sections here, these past few segments, we've been going over how to best prepare for your test, right? So that when that test comes by, you can take it, you could look at it, and you could just crush it. With complete confidence, you can feel like, all right, I'm more prepared for this test than any other because I've got tools, I am understanding what I'm trying to do here, so you can go and just crush that test. So let's take a look at what we've been doing here. So first, we started taking a look at ourselves, taking a look at how we learn, how we get information, and then said, hey, you know what? We're not going to compare ourselves to others. We're going to take a look at how we do it and see, okay, how can I best do that more? How can I best get information so that I could use that benefit in the test there? Then we took a look at how to organize the notes, the lectures, any information that we'll be needing for the test. And then after that, we started to look at, okay, what's going to be the most useful and focusing on that. What's going to get us the most points and looking at that and that alone. After that, we filtered out what we know versus what we don't know. And then we start building on what we know, being more confident, again with that confidence, feeling okay, feeling more prepared that we're going to take that test and just crush it. So now we're at the point where we can just memorize what we need to, and then feel confident that we have that information, that we could just spit it out when we want to, and then get that grade that we're looking for. So before we go on to that, let's take a look back. Let's go back old school. Let's go back all the way to kindergarten, and then take a look at how did you learn how to memorize. So most of us, we started with nursery rhymes, right? We got these little rhymes that go back and forth. There's a little song that goes along with it. And then we started learning these nursery rhymes, and then some of us, well, I think most of us, we had to go and repeat it back to the teacher or repeat it back to somebody, and then they graded us on how well we memorized those nursery rhymes. So nursery rhymes, why do we start there? And then how did we memorize those? Well, let's take a look. With nursery rhymes, just like the alphabet, we memorized something to a little song, and we memorized it by repeating it. We repeated it over and over and over again. Now, Twinkle Twinkle, it's a little song that we learned in kindergarten also. Maybe Ba Ba Black Sheep. And so what's neat about these three things, the alphabet, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and Ba Ba Black Sheep, well, they all use the same tune. So the song that goes throughout it, A, B, C, D, or Twinkle Twinkle Little, and so on and so forth, we memorize this because there's little thing that went along with it. So when we take a look at things that we easily memorize now, we take a look at things like music. A lot of music that gets stuck in our heads, and it goes around and around and around, and we're like, oh man, you almost know instantly, like, okay, that's a song that's going to be stuck in my head. Movies. I've seen people who can memorize pretty much whole dialogue throughout a whole movie. And again, when we're kids, we like to go in there and we like to press play again. We like to rewind, press play, watch that movie over and over and over again. And then eventually we pretty much memorize that movie. We memorize all the characters in there. Also with games, for those who play video games or just games in general who are into sports, you could memorize stats, you could memorize moves, you could memorize pretty much everything there is to a game. Song after song, movie after movie, or game after game that you watch over and over and over again. There's a theme that goes throughout these three things, and that's repeating. You repeat each of them, and as you repeat, it gets stuck deeper and deeper into your mind, and then you're more able and you're more confident when the time comes to repeat that over again. So that song comes back on the radio, you're able to sing it with your friends. That movie comes on, you're able to go back and forth with the characters. That game comes on, you know the rules, you know the players, you know who's going to win pretty much because, well, at least from your experience, you feel confident that you know what's going to get the best results for that game because you've gone through it. You know that you know it. You've gone through it over and over again. So a little bit more on memorizing here. How we learn to memorize is that it was useful. So when a song comes on, that's fun. It's useful to know the words to the song, especially if you're into karaoke. You know that maybe later on you're going to have to sing that song, so you want to know the words to it. That movie is useful because when you're talking with your friends, you're going to talk about movies and you're going to relate back to characters, you're going to relate back to scenes. They'll be laughing, and if you don't know what's going on, then you can't laugh with them. Same thing with games. So if you don't know the rules to a game, if you don't know how to play a game, you're not going to win that game. So that when you memorize something, you're really looking at, is it useful to me? The more useful it is, the more it'll stick. And then, does it benefit you? So if you're going to memorize this now, is it going to benefit you right away? Or do you see a way that it's going to benefit you in the future? So what happens through school, what happens with most students, okay, they memorize these nursery rhymes, they're cool with it. They memorize the ABCs, they're cool with it. Because it's things that are fun, they're things that are useful. You're memorizing mathematics, simple arithmetic, you're going through it, and eventually what happens to most students, what happens to many students, is that they start memorizing things because they're told, okay, you got to memorize this, and then they start realizing, hey, you know what? This isn't useful anywhere other than the test. You know what? This isn't benefiting me anywhere other than for this class. And so as you got to memorize more and more, your love for learning or your love for memorizing things so you could use it, it starts diminishing. It starts going away. When you check out what's going on in faststudyskills.com, you'll learn more about this. You'll learn about how to overcome this, and you'll be like, okay, Mr. A is just getting started here. So let's wrap up these study basics. When studying or working on a project, how can I repeat so that it'll stick? How can I repeat what I'm learning so that it'll stick better? And so when that test comes, I won't have that test anxiety. I'll feel confident that I can crush it. When studying or working on a project, how can this be useful and benefit me? How can I look at this information and say, okay, this is useful somehow. Okay, this is going to benefit me somehow. Of course, this basic training is just a tip of the iceberg. If you're open and willing to try more powerful tips and strategies to becoming a highly effective, highly efficient, ninja-like student, see you inside faststudyskills.com.